Welcome to another episode of the Aro Benaiah Show, a podcast where we spotlight real stories of blue collar entrepreneurs, street people, and hands on business leaders who are building a life and legacy through their skills and hard work. Today, I'm joined by someone who has wear two hats and wear them well. Carl Amihole is a professional photographer and owner of a thriving cleaning companies in Las Vegas, Kentucky. He's known for his eyes for duties, his commitment to service, and his ability to build trust with clients in two very different but surprising connected industry. We are going to dive into Carl's journey from his early life work experience to building two service-based business and to the lessons he has learned that can help the next generation of trade people. Let's join into the course of the conversation. Once again, welcome to the show, Carl.
Hey Aro, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a whole lot. Yeah, so Carl, how was it like growing up? What was your childhood like?
Oh man, my childhood. I had a great childhood. I think I had a family with both parents. We moved a couple times. Great schools. Really supportive. I've got one sister who I'm really close with. So I think overall, growing up in the United States in Colorado was a really positive experience for me. It really helped set the groundwork for, where I'm at now in my life, with everything. So I've been, super blessed to have a wonderful family, a great mom and dad, great sister that's really are supportive of everything that I'm doing now with my businesses.
Wow, that was amazing. So, what kind of experience actually shaped you growing up? You know, a whole lot of entrepreneur before they become entrepreneur, they have a kind of a childhood either their parents were into something that involved trade or something that currently, yeah, a bit involved what they are currently doing now is more like an offshoot of what their parents, their dad and mom was actually doing. So, what kind of experience actually shaped your experience growing up?
Yeah, so my dad was an engineer. My mom was a secretary. I followed the path of my dad, so I actually went to college for engineering. I have a background in civil engineering. I actually worked in construction management and project management. In regards to that field for about 15 years, kind of following in the footsteps of my father. Before I started my photography company. And so, doing having that engineering background, I think was really a good benefit for me as it came to starting a business because I had a lot of experience on technical things, which photography could kind of be technical sometimes. But at the same time, I got a lot of experience working on projects and different things like that with different clients, different kind of people, different people, from different parts of the country and the world and stuff like that. So I think it was a super beneficial um, background to have before I actually started my business in photography, to have that engineering background, which I kind of took from my father. We went to the same university. We even had some of the same professors.
Wow.
From that time. So it was very very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just admiring the kind of conversation that will go on at home, being that you and dad have similar professors.
Yeah,
uh,
crazy, to think that some of those guys were there, that long, teaching the same courses at that university. But yeah, it definitely happened.
yeah, amazing. So more like, did you always imagine yourself as an entrepreneur, or was it something that actually that came up earlier on? Let's say after more like when you're done with school, or is it something you always imagine growing up?
No, it's not. I my parents were both, W-2 employees in America. They worked for somebody else. That's how I started my career, in project management, as a W-2 employee. So I never really thought I was going to run a business. But just some things, in life, some circumstances happened. Um, and it just worked out where, I found photography as a hobby that I really enjoyed. Um, and, I was fortunate enough to be able to turn it into a business, where I do very well with it and I'm very happy with it. But the world kind of lined up with it during, COVID times. A
Mm.
couple things happened in our family. One, my wife and I, we started to, foster and adopt a child. Um, and so what that meant to me was that I needed a little bit more flexibility in my work life. So I can, kind of help take care of him and do the things I needed to do as a dad. And my career didn't really lend to that flexibility that I needed. So that's when I really was like, I need to turn this photography thing into a business, so I could get that flexibility, have that time I need to be a dad. Um, but once I made that decision, it's only been a positive experience. I love the flexibility that I gained. I love the time I got to spend with my son. And my business has only continued to grow every year. Since we did that. And that was back in like 2020. So it's been 5 years. It also happened to be COVID. So I was really trying to do a lot of photography work with professional headshots or portraits and things like that. But COVID allowed me to pivot the photography work from portraits and headshots into real estate media. So
Oh,
I'm able to go into people's homes, and I was able to take pictures of the houses that they're trying to sell. And I didn't have to be around anybody, right? So when we had COVID lockdowns and things like that, I was still able to get work done in the photography field, make some money and not really, be impacted by that shutdown. So
yeah.
it was a great pivot that was forced upon me, but in the long run, it worked out really well.
Wow, that was really amazing. I think it's the fact that you have done a whole lot of corporate job and you having to pivot into entrepreneurship with photography was, yeah, it was a bit, well, I say a bit gave you a lot of time to work on other things and to work on your business and everything. So more like, I know you have wore more like different hats over time, in different aspect of business before you start running your photography business and that of cleaning business. So can you take us through the journey of those various jobs you have actually more like done before now, before you actually more like how those jobs have actually shaped you towards what you are currently doing?
Yeah, so I think as a business owner, you do wear a lot of hats. In the photography side of things. My clients are real estate agents, so they are the ones who are selling homes here, in Louisville, Kentucky. They're the ones who hire me, so I do a lot of relationship building with these real estate agents. Working closely with them. I do a lot of you know, um, communicating, talking, delivering things with them. But one of the things that my clients really like about my business is that they are able to order photography services online. So they have an online
Hmm.
order form they can go to. They can place an order tonight, for tomorrow. They know I'm going to be there. They know I'm going to show up on time. And then they get the pictures delivered the next morning, which they love, right? It's a quick turnaround thing, when it comes to that kind of thing. But like you mentioned, like I also started a cleaning company. I call it Louisville Cleaning Pros. What I was seeing is a lot of real estate agents were complaining about the cleaners on the houses that they were going to sell. They weren't showing up. They were late. They um, didn't do a great job, whatever the case may be. It was impacting our photography as well because the house doesn't look as good, or we got delayed by 3 days because the cleaners didn't show up. So I, decided to start a second company that would help, fill that gap that I saw, which was, hey, these real estate agents are complaining about their cleaners. I think I can be a cleaning company where the cleaners are going to show up on time, they're going to do a good job, and then that complaint is going to go away because they already know me, they already trust me, they already know the work that I can deliver
Yeah.
when I do the photography side of things. So they're going to give me that opportunity on the cleaning side of things as well.
Wow, that was really amazing. I think it was the fact that uh, what is even more surprising is the fact that how you were able to kind of maximize that opportunity, seeing the opportunity and taking the lead towards making it a business, and the fact that you're already into their space. It's easier for you to sell the idea of you being in the cleaning industry, being that they already trust you from this other end of the business. And the way you structure the business that allows you these space to actually grow the both of them in terms of making it easier for them to book online, the way you set the structure. Was there a job you did before now that helped you to actually more like build those structures in terms of the online aspect of it, and you showing up that very more like, yeah, consistently over time? Was there a job you did before now that actually give you that idea of structure your business to that particular aspect? Because I got to discover that a whole lot of our entrepreneurs who are championing most of the things they actually do, they rather work in a corporate organized system, or more like they learn it from a particular settings that make it so easier for them to, because sometimes what actually more like hinder the rise and fall of a whole lot of trade business is their structures. So how were you able to sort your structures, and what actually
Yeah.
influenced it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, coming from a engineering background, and I spent a lot of time, working on projects, construction projects. Uh, those projects have a lot of processes in place, because the people can kind of come in and out, in project work. So it's important to have processes in place, so the job gets done, on time, on budget, all that stuff that happens in the construction world. But because of all that experience, I was able to take that and apply it to my business as well, right? So now I'm able to set up processes in my business that are repeatable. We do them every day. And it allows us to do the same thing, right? It allows us to deliver a quality product on time, every day for our clients, and they're super happy about it. So like, I think developing a good process for the business and for the photography work and the side of things, it came super natural to me because of my background in project work on construction sites and
Oh,
things like
just
that.
well.
And so it's for both businesses. If you have a good process um, that you follow every time, then your results are going to be consistent and the same every time. And that's what clients really want. They want consistency. They know when they call you and they hire you, they want to
Yeah.
know what they're going to get. And if you have those processes in place, they already know what they're going to get before they hire you, which makes it a no brainer for them to hire you because they already know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, so true, so true, so true. So, you make reference of 2020 during the period of the lockdown. You were able to kind of pivot more into the photography business. So, I want to learn at what time did you actually learn photography, and at what time does it occur to you that this photography skill could actually more like turn into a business? How were you able to kind of did you always have this photography skill, or you learned it and you just done your new in 2020 that, yeah, you could actually make much from this rather than leaning more on the corporate job?
Yeah, so no, I did not always have a photography skill, but I did start. learning photography in 2008, 2007. So I had, started, doing photography, quite a few years before I actually turned it into a profitable business.
Oh, wow.
It's a skill that, I didn't, you had to develop over time, the skills to be a good photographer and things like that. So, it was a long time period of like, developing a passion for photography, learning the technical side of
Mm.
the skills. Um, I think the hardest part about running a photography business is a lot of photographers are great at photography, but they're not great at business. And so,
Yeah.
um, you know, you can see when you go out there and look at, some photographers, they're fantastic at business, and their photography is good, but it's not great. But they're making way more money than some of the people who are fantastic at photography, and it's because you got to learn, both sides of that. Um, the table there. You got to learn how to be a good photographer, a great photographer, and a good, great businessman at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's a balancing act. You got to learn how to balance, the art of photography with business, acquiring clients, and bringing that revenue in every month.
Yeah. Yeah. That was okay because business wouldn't exist if it's not bringing revenue at the end of the month. So more like running two business means understanding people, process and pressure. So, what is one lesson that you learned from photography that have helped you to succeed in your cleaning industry and vice versa, or that you have learned in cleaning industry that make you succeed more well in? Because working with people sometimes in both business is quite demanding, especially business pressure owing to the demand, deadline, and everything. So, what have you learned that help you to make the both of them and be able to kind of work with them effortlessly?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. So, I think what I learned in my photography side that I took to the cleaning side immediately was the ability for people to order online. People don't want to call you. They don't want to get an estimate over the
Yeah.
phone. They don't want to wait for you to come to their house to see what it looks like to give them a price. So my cleaning website will give them a price immediately based on the amount of bedrooms, the amount of bathrooms, and the size of their house. So they can see the price instantly. When they type in those variables into the online ordering form. So, I learned that from the photography business right away is that people love
Yeah.
to just be able to go online and book. They don't want to pick up the phone and hope you answer. The other thing is communication. Communication is probably the most important part of running a service-based business is communicating with your clients. Obviously having great automated systems that are going to send the confirmation emails and the confirmation texts and the reminder emails, the reminder texts. But it's also being proactive and using your own phone or your own email, and being a real person with your clients and interacting with them, either on the phone in person, or in text, and actually communicating with them, in real life, because they want to know that you care
Yeah.
about their project and that you're, involved in it. They want to know that, and so, having great systems online, for booking, but also following up those great systems with, actual real life communication, really helps in both of those businesses.
Yeah, that was amazing. And also I think I would like to learn from you in this particular aspect because I run an industrial cleaning and sometimes it's quite demanding to estimate more like what a space needs when they come to cleaning without seeing it in real time. And I want to know more like what metrics do you actually involve when you're actually more like giving quotation, what metric do you check here and there? Because I've discovered over time that yeah, it might be two bedroom of Mr. A, and what Mr. A has owing to the complexity is different from Mr. B and different from that of Mr. C, owing to the various things they have in the particular house, and also if it has been done thoroughly before or it hasn't. So more like, what metric do you usually use to gauge how you actually more like do your pricing?
Yeah, so I mean that's a tricky thing in the cleaning business, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know what each place is really going to look like, but it's a setting a price, where we're going to be successful, in most scenarios, right?
Okay.
But we're also letting the client know when they book, like, hey, if your place is exceptionally dirty or you haven't had professional cleaning within the last 30 days, we may have to upgrade your order to, a deep clean option or,
Yeah.
something like that. And we're letting them know that immediately when their booking comes in, right? Because, the booking form allows for them to add that option themselves. Most people aren't going to add it themselves because they want to like book the cheapest thing that they can.
Yeah.
But that's where that communication really comes in. Is you got to be upfront and honest with them and be like, hey, um, you know, for most houses, this price is going to cover everything. You should be fine. But if we get there and we find out that something is out of the ordinary and different, then these other charges might apply, and you just have to let them know ahead of time to do that.
Yeah.
But we set our pricing so that we know if we're going to a 2 bedroom 2 bathroom house that's 2,000 square feet, we know that the price we're charging in most scenarios is going to allow us to
Yeah.
be profitable
Yeah.
with the amount of time it's going to take to clean that house.
Yeah, I think it's very profound, your approach towards it. I think it's the fact that you make reference of the communication is key when it comes to this particular end, owing to the fact that you can give a disclaimer to what extent that could actually do up to, and if getting there the it wasn't what was being signed, they didn't actually more like specify the whole general stuff, it's easier for you to actually more like come back in time and actually make reference of this was where we end, and owing to the fact that it was more than this, you have to all pay for a deep cleaning, which demand more, more actually more like more hands to actually get the job done, which is very lovely because if not that you make reference of this, usually I'm usually more like this very stiff neck when it comes to when clients reach out to me and we're like, you just have to give me the cost upfront without seeing this piece. Sometimes I don't like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
really. But with this particular blueprint you give me now, I think it's already make me now a bit, yeah, a bit very very comfortable being able to kind of take charges without seeing it in real time, and yeah, owing to communication, being that when you get there, we can actually offshore things.
yeah, exactly. It's like I understand exactly what you're saying because it is very, you never know what you're walking into, and
Yeah,
it can be different, but like educating your clients up front, having
yeah,
a good website that's very clear, and lets them know what the extras are or what they could be. But again, it's like we have the automated system, right? They book, they get the confirmation email, they get that. I'm still following up to them with a personalized email that I
yeah,
write, saying, hey, we got your order, this is what to expect. If something's out of the ordinary, there might be extra charges, and so
yeah.
they know that coming in.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much, Carl. Yeah, so many trade people and service provider rush to get the job done but forget about client experience. What is the common mistake you see them making for those trade persons who are just entering, doing their trade work, who in the bid of in quotes making money, making more for or making more profits, they want to get the job done as fast as possible without actually more like, yeah, at the end of the day they don't worry more about client experience. So what is the common mistake you see them doing, and how could they actually do better?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it's a couple things. Yeah, I want to get in and out of a house when I'm taking pictures of it. Because the more homes I can photograph in a day, obviously the more money that I'm going to make. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's a balancing act. Where the real estate agent is there, the homeowner is there. Um, you know, I always take the time on every photography appointment. I make a walk through the house. I talk to the owner. I say, "Hey, these are the things that I think that you can do right now to make your pictures look better." Whether that's picking up some rugs off the bathroom floor, hiding these towels, putting the toothbrush away in the bathroom. Whatever the case may be. I always take the extra 5 or 10 minutes, do that house walkthrough, um, and go back to the real estate agent or the homeowner and tell them, what I see that's going to make their pictures better. They appreciate that I took the time to do that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of photographers will just walk in and take the pictures and say, "Hey, that's how you had the house. That's how the pictures are going to look." We take the time to make those small suggestions that are
Yeah.
going to make the pictures look just a little bit better. That provides a great client experience because they are hiring us as experts. We go in hundreds and hundreds of houses a year. We know what looks good in pictures and what doesn't. They
Yeah.
don't. They may never have had their home photographed before. Um, a lot of times what looks great in person doesn't translate over to a picture. But we know that they don't know that. So if we
Yeah.
explain that to them, that provides a great client experience. For the client and for the homeowner.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carl. I think from what you just said, it simply means customer experience rise and fall on communication. You being able to kind of communicate what the intent is going to be, because you make reference of it earlier on, that what differentiates those who are very good at what they do, and you actually make reference of it at the earlier beginning of the conversation, that what differentiates those who are good in photography and those who didn't get it right and not making much is the fact that they might not communicate right, they don't communicate right, and they don't look towards more like the customer experience, which actually speak volume. You be mindful of that and communicate. Yeah, sometimes just communicate what you want to do and let them understand what it actually stands for. I think it go a long way, giving them the satisfaction rather than not carry them along. Just do things the way you please. At the end of the day, they are not going to be carried along, and they won't understand some of the intricate stuff you actually went to do. So how were you able to kind of? I think photography now can be more like a one man's job, or two, three persons. But when it comes to cleaning, I know you have a whole lot of other different persons who work along with you. So how is more like you working with people, like, and hiring, you working with people, and the standard you create for them, that even if you are not there, they are able to do the job to a particular standard. How were you able to kind of operate that?
Yeah, so yeah, a couple of things. My photography business, we do have other photographers that work in the business. So it's not
Okay.
always just me who shows up at the
Oh,
house.
okay, okay. Forgive me.
So I've been able to train other photographers to go to homes. I teach them my process 100%. They follow the same thing. And the cleaners, it's the same thing, right? I'm not going to clean a house,
Yeah.
but I'm sending some cleaners out there. But it's really just um, communication with your employees, and then giving them the expectations of what you expect them to do, following up with those expectations, and then allowing them the trust to go do the work and knowing that they're going to do it the right way. With
Yeah.
that being said, if something is missed, in cleaning or missed in the photography side of things, we never hesitate to go back and redo it.
Yeah.
We'll go back and retake the pictures. If we miss something, we're going to go back and redo it.
Yeah.
If we're cleaning and we missed a spot, if they point it out to us, we're going to send the cleaner back and they're going to go take care of that spot. We want our clients to be happy with the service that they're getting, and sometimes part of that is going back and redoing something that may have not gone well or that you missed, or something like that. All my employees are humans, just like I am. They make mistakes. I make mistakes. So we just try to go back and do what we need to do for them.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that actually speaks volume to the fact that yeah, no one is above mistake, but owing to you already set an expectation and what is demanded from every job, it make it easier for you to communicate what you want and for them to go back and work on it when the expectation is not gotten right. Or more like when there's a little stuff they couldn't work on owing to they missed it or they couldn't get it right. Yeah, thank you very much, Carl.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
in your yeah, so in your opinion, what mindset separates trade people who just get by and those who actually thrive in the industry they are currently doing?
Having a mindset, that I think of continual learning, and testing and trying new things, is super important as a business owner.
Yeah,
It's easy to get complacent with where you're at and what you've done, and um, you know, once you kind of get complacent and just stop, you kind of just get by with what you were doing. But if
yeah,
you've got a mindset of continuous improvement and learning, trying to learn new techniques, new tricks, new products, whatever the case may be, then you're always able to offer something more to your clients, something a little bit better than you had before, and that allows you to continue to grow, not only as a person or a business owner, but as a company.
yeah. Thank you so much. I think the fact that you make reference of the growth mindset basically means yeah, sometimes it can be very, very easy to get complacent owing to your business, your trade business involve recurring style which you already master. It can be so obvious that you don't want to learn more. You just want to repeat that procedure every now and then without having to learn one or two things. But the fact that you make reference of it that yeah, there are other things you could actually put in place to learn or try different solutions, try better means, which actually speak volume to the fact that yeah, there are always rooms to grow once you already have the growth mindset towards making things better, faster too, and also in better way of communicating and getting the job done faster. Yeah, thank you. So a lot of young people who want to get into hands-on career but don't know where to start. What practical ways can they find internship and mentorship from established trade people?
I think, a couple ways. One is go to work for one,
Yeah,
and learn the business. That'd be the easiest way
yeah,
to learn something is, if you want to run a cleaning company, go work for a cleaning company. If you want to run a photography business, go work for a photography business.
yeah,
That's the quickest way to learn the business and the industry. But if you don't want to do that, which I didn't before, I just dove headfirst into it. I think diving headfirst into it, telling people that you're doing it, and then figuring it out as you go is, like, the best way to do it, because um, we as humans, I think, are very easy to come up with excuses on reasons we shouldn't do it or
yeah,
reasons it's not going to work. So if you just do it and take that dive and jump headfirst in, then you're gonna learn some hard lessons, but you're gonna learn some good lessons along the way, and that's how you become successful.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for the practical step you gave. Basically means it's either you are any of the particular trade business you are interested in, go learn from an established industry, or if you already have the skill sets, or you can actually more like learn as you go. If you already have more like a basis of the skill, by starting on your own, tell others that you do these particular things and keep figuring it out. And the more you get to do that with a growth mindset, there are a whole lot of rooms to grow and become better over time. Yeah, thank you very much, Carl. So looking at service industry today, where do you think there is still an opportunity that's still yet on tap, or more like there is not majorly tap? I think it's the fact that you were into photography and then you're able to see more like an opportunity that have not been well tapped from the cleaning industries, and then you actually maximize it. So over the course of doing these two companies, more like all together, which industries do you think is still yet on tap when it comes to 3D industry, service business, home service business, that still, despite they are more like being service, but they are still underserved? So more like, so that those our trade persons who are still listening to this particular show, who want to or type into it, could actually more like see it as an opportunity.
So the question is like kind of which
Yeah,
industry see uh
yeah. Which industry still has an opportunity for trade persons to actually more like jump into?
yeah, so I think the way my two businesses are structured, I think it depends on what you are looking for in getting out of business. So a cleaning business, as you know, can have a lot of monthly recurring revenue. Because you're getting people, um, clients who want you to come clean their house once a month or every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So kind of what that revenue is going to be every month based on the amount of clients you have that are signed up for these recurring services. I think that's a real good thing to strive for when you're starting a business, right? So you
yeah,
have some predictability in your income. What you're doing every month and that kind of stuff. The photography business isn't that way. I don't have a subscription or
hmm.
some recurring service that people can buy. So everything is kind of a one-off service. I have
One of
a lot of
service.
repeat clients, so I do get like that repeat business and things like that, but it's not like a recurring business like you get
Yeah,
with cleaning. So I think it just depends on kind of what you're looking for. I think the cleaning business has a lot of upside because of that recurring, business
yeah,
model. Where when people get used to you coming in their house every 2 weeks, their house is clean. They love it. They're not going to want to stop unless you give them
yeah,
a reason to stop. So I think that the cleaning business has a lot of upside because of that.
yeah. Thank you very much, Carl. And I think another thing that I would like to ask is, how did you able to kind of how do you keep clients coming back in cleaning industry, especially it's an industry where as much as there's a whole lot of upside to what you can actually maximize, also there's always someone who is cheaper. How did you actually more like being able to keep your clients to keep coming, more like towards subscription cleaning and everything? How were you able to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good a good point. I think it goes for both of my industries where there's always
Yeah,
somebody who is cheaper. There's always a cheaper photographer. There's always a cheaper client. But it goes back to communication.
yeah,
Showing these clients that you care about their house, that you're willing to go, the extra mile and come back and redo it if something doesn't go right. You're not just, minimizing any concerns they have. And, just, really being a real person, communicating with them.
yeah,
They want to talk to you or deal with a real person. They don't want to deal with a robot, or an automated system. So, having that accessibility, goes a long way when it comes to retaining clients. It's as
yeah,
easy as picking up the phone, right? Your cleaners leave, um, you pick up the phone, you call them and say, "Hey, I'm just checking in. I want to make sure everything went well. Do you have any concerns? Did everything, you know, go as expected, and if they have any legitimate concerns, then you address them. It's just offering, that kind of service that people want. They want to know you care, so if you show you care,
Yeah, actually.
they're going to keep spending their money with people who care.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think just the way you said, communication is key, especially in the cleaning industry and that of photography. And the fact that sometimes people are biased, they don't like people coming, they don't like new persons coming into their space. Once you can come into their space, you did a nice job and you can communicate better. So sure, you can be able to retain those clients for a long period of time. Yeah, depending on what they actually want here and there. So more like, have there been any difficulties? What has been the biggest difficulties when you're handling clients, and how were you able to kind of overcome the distress? More like, let's say, what's the toughest stuff that actually presents itself during the course of running the business, and how were you able to kind of overcome it?
Yeah, I think the toughest situations are the ones that you didn't plan for. So when you kind of get a little bit blindsided by something that happens, or surprises you, kind of things, and the way you can handle that, and stay calm under pressure, and kind of address the client's concerns the best you can, is really how you can get through it the best. We've been pretty fortunate on the cleaning side of things so far, where we haven't had any major dust ups, with clients, but we're doing background checks on our cleaners, and
Yeah.
making sure that everybody, is a professional, and knows what they're doing, before we send them into a client's house. So we're
Mm.
doing our homework, and trying to make sure, as best we can, that we know what they're getting into, um, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Thank.
it's a tricky thing going into other people's spaces.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like it, but they're hiring you for a reason, and you gotta deliver on that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Carl Amijo. I think it's the fact that you make reference of uh you being able to it's still follow communication, even when there's pressure, there's a whole lot of difficulties. Yeah, it still rise and follow communication. Once you get communication right, there is no issue that can't be solved.
Yeah,
Once they understand where you are at and what is currently going on, I think at the end of the day, everything is going to be solved. And the fact that you make reference of before sending people into their space, they are well lectured on what their expectation is, which actually clear off 50% of the possible troubles that might come along the way, which is very, very key. Other than sending someone who is not more like, who doesn't even know what is expected of him before going to client space, which is very, very key. So more like, how do my audience know more about you, and where can they connect with you to do business with you and to do many other things with you?
yeah, sure. So I've got three websites people can visit, if they want to find
Okay.
me. So for real estate photography and real estate media, they can go to LouisvilleRealEstateImages.com. They can find all of our work there. Online ordering form is there as well. For professional headshots and portraits, they can visit CarlAmijo.com. And for professional cleaning of their house or office space, they can visit LouisvilleCleaningPros.com. So all of those will have contact forms where you can get a hold of me. The numbers ring right to my phone, so you can get a hold of me that way as well.
All right, all right. Thank you very much. So, is there any social media too where they could follow to see more update about what you do every now and then?
I don't really, I've got Instagram, LouisvilleRealEstateImages.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Carl Armijo. And then, search Carl Armijo Photography on Facebook, and you'll find me there.
All right, all right. Thank you very much. Yeah, Carl, this has been an inspiring and practical conversation. I love how your story shows that skill for one trade can open door, yeah, open door another opportunity in other paying when you actually pay attention to little details, whether it is perfect shots or a spotless home, can be different between a one-time job and a lifeline client. Yeah, for those listening to us who want to learn more about car work, click the link. Every link you are going to be looking forward to is going to be on the show notes, towards building everything you actually want to do and the business you want to do with him. Yeah, this has been the Aro Benaiah Show. I'm the host. And until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep inspiring. Once again, it's a pleasure having you in the Aro Benaiah Show, Carl.
Thanks, Aro. I really appreciate it.